I want to start today with well, it's kind of a horror story. And before you ask, no, it is not a ghost story.
Okay, good.
And it's not a true crime story, although the amount of life lost in this story is, honestly, it feels criminal. It is a productivity horror story.
Ah, the scariest kind of all, because it's usually happening to us while we're wide awake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I want you to picture a CEO. Let's say they are running a Series B fintech startup. This is a smart person, you know. They have successfully pitched to VCs. They understand complex markets. They are leading a team of 50 people. High stakes, high pressure.
Okay, I have the archetype in mind. Very sharp, very busy.
Very sharp.
Okay.
This person needs to book a trip for a conference. It's not a simple hop. It's 3 legs to the flight. There's a hotel to book. There's ground transport. The works.
A standard but slightly complicated business trip.
Right. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot. How long do you think that task takes for someone that competent?
Well, if they are focused, if they know what they're doing, I'd say maybe 10, 15 minutes tops.
You would think. You really, really would think. But in this specific case study that our sources highlight, it took 47 minutes.
47 minutes.
47 minutes, nearly an entire hour.
That is physically painful to hear. What a waste.
And that is just the time on the clock. We aren't even talking about the mental energy yet. Or take the case of the product designer mentioned in our sources. They missed a connecting flight.
Oh, no.
Why? Because the calendar invite, which, by the way, they made themselves manually, had the wrong terminal listed. A tiny self-inflicted error with a huge consequence.
Oh, I have been there. Not missing the flight, thank God, but that last-minute panic, sprinting through an airport because of a dumb mistake I made weeks ago. Yes, I know that feeling.
Or the COO paying £340 for a hotel room that was £89 2 days prior.
It's just procrastination tax.
Purely because they didn't get around to clicking book until the last possible minute.
It sounds chaotic, but here's the thing. I think for a lot of people listening to this right now, that doesn't sound like a horror story at all. That just sounds like a Tuesday.
Right. And that is exactly the problem we're digging into. It feels like just part of the job. We almost wear it like a strange badge of honor. Oh, I'm so busy, I'm booking my own flights between meetings.
The hustle culture mythology.
Exactly. But what we are exploring today is the idea that these aren't just little annoyances. They are symptoms of a massive systemic drain on your most valuable asset, your brain.
We're talking about what the source material calls the friction tax.
The friction tax. I love that term, but it also scares me a little bit. So today, we are going deep on an investigative analysis of travel logistics, administrative burdens, and specifically why smart, capable people refuse to let go of dumb tasks.
And we're going to look at a specific case study in solving this, right? A company.
Yes, a company called VA Connect.
VA Connect, got it.
That's VA Connect. We're going to break down the psychology of why we hoard work, which gets really uncomfortable, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure.
The economics of what's called geographic arbitrage in South Africa, which is fascinating, and the very real difference between a managed service and just hiring some random freelancer you find on the internet.
And we should probably start with that core concept you just mentioned, the friction tax.
Yeah.
Because I think people hear that and they think, okay, sure, it's a little annoying. They see the 47 minutes lost, but they don't see the actual cost.
So define it for us. When we say friction tax, what are we actually paying?
So, strictly speaking, the friction tax is the price you pay for not having a smooth system in place. It's cumulative. It is the time, yes, the actual minutes ticking by on the clock.
With visible.
The visible part, but it's also the cognitive load, the mental drag, and the huge gaping opportunity cost of what you could have been doing instead.
And there's data on this, isn't there?
There is. The research is startling. They looked at knowledge workers in high-growth companies, so the people who are literally supposed to be inventing the future, and found they lose an average of 4.7 hours per week to this tax.
Okay, 4.7 hours. Let's just pause on that number for a second. Because if I tell a listener you lose 5 hours a week, they might just shrug. That sounds like a long lunch break spread out.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're talking about, is it?
No, absolutely not. That is the critical distinction. That 4.7 hours isn't rest. It isn't recovery. It's not time spent brainstorming in a hammock and having a breakthrough.
It's not creative downtime.
No. It is high-stress, low-value grinding. It's the time you spend fighting with a printer before a board meeting, or resetting a password for the 10th time, or staring at Expedia trying to figure out if a 45-minute layover in Frankfurt is physically possible without, being an Olympic sprinter.
It's the vaporized time. the time that just disappears and leaves you feeling exhausted and like you've accomplished nothing of value.
Exactly. Vaporized. And the real tragedy here is that this specific block of time, this tax, it usually comes out of your deep work bucket. You rarely do your admin when you're tired at 5 p.m. on a Friday.
No, you do it at 10 a.m. on Tuesday.
Right when you should be designing the next product roadmap or writing that critical proposal. You tell yourself, oh, I'll just knock this out quickly, and then your best hour of the day is gone.
So let's unpack the anatomy of this tax, because I feel like there's the stuff we see, the tip of the iceberg, and then there's this massive, dangerous thing underneath that's actually sinking the ship.
That's a perfect analogy. Let's start with the visible cost, the tip of the iceberg. Oxford Economics did a really comprehensive study on this. They showed that business travelers spend, on average, about 2.3 hours booking a single international trip.
2.3 hours.
And for a domestic one, it's a bit less, about 1.1 hours.
Which, playing devil's advocate for a second doesn't sound like a complete tragedy on its own. 2 hours to book a complex trip across time zones. Seems reasonable.
Sure, in a vacuum, if you only travel once a year. But let's do the math for a typical founder or executive. Let's say you travel twice a month, which is not unusual.
Okay.
A mix of international and domestic, you're easily looking at nearly 40 hours a year.
40 hours. That is a full standard work week.
A full week of your life gone. Not spent with family, not spent on strategy, but sitting in a chair, staring at booking screens and navigating drop-down menus.
When you put it like that, it's horrifying.
But that's still just the visible time. That's the time you can actually log. The invisible cost, the part of the iceberg underwater, is so much worse. And it starts with decision fatigue.
We make a lot of decisions every day, right? The number is something wild.
The average adult makes about 35,000 remotely conscious decisions a day. And you can think of your brain like a battery. Every single decision, no matter how small, drains a little bit of that power.
What should I have for breakfast? Should I reply to this email now or later?
Exactly. And the problem with travel booking or any complex admin task is something the source material calls choice architecture complexity.
That sounds fancy. Choice architecture complexity. Translate that for us.
It just means that booking a trip isn't one decision. It's a cascading web of interconnected decisions. It's a system.
Right. So the flight time I choose affects my seat selection.
Which then affects when you land, which then dictates where you can stay based on check-in times.
Which then dictates your ground transport options. Do I need a car? Can I take the train?
And you get caught in this loop. Oh, I feel this so deeply. This is the booking.com hole. You go on there thinking, I'll just grab a room, 5 minutes, in and out.
And what actually happens?
You see 247 options in a single neighborhood.
Right. It's paralyzing.
So you start filtering. Filter by price, then filter by location. Then you filter by review score, but only reviews above an 8.5.
Then you find a nice one, but you read one single review that says the Wi-Fi is a bit spotty. And you panic because you have a crucial Zoom call on Tuesday morning.
Yes. So you open 6 more tabs to compare other hotels. You open Google Maps in another window to check the walking distance to the conference center. You check Street View to see if the neighborhood looks safe.
And suddenly, 40 minutes have passed. You made a decision that cost maybe 180 pounds? But here is the kicker, and this is the important part. You have completely lost the mental clarity you needed for that product roadmap meeting you have in 10 minutes.
That is the part that kills me. It's not just the 40 minutes that are gone. It's the brain fog that follows you into the next, more important task.
Which brings us to the next layer of the tax, the concept of the switching penalty.
The Stanford Attention Lab has some frankly terrifying data on this. They found that once you break your concentration, say to check an email alert or to quickly book a flight, it takes an average of 23 minutes to get back to the same level of deep focus you were at before.
23 minutes. So if I check my email 3 times in an hour, I am mathematically incapable of ever doing deep work.
Precisely. You are permanently skimming the surface of your own intellect. Think of your brain like a heavy old diesel engine. It takes a long time to warm up and get to that efficient cruising altitude.
I like that analogy.
Every time you stop to do a quick admin task, you are shutting the entire engine off. Then you have to go through the whole painful, slow process of restarting it.
And booking a trip isn't just a quick check. It's a massive engine shutdown.
It is. So let's run the numbers. If you interrupt your strategic thinking to book 3 separate trips in a single week, You aren't just losing the, say, hour and a half you spent actually booking.
No, you're losing that plus 3 times 23 minutes.
At least.
Yeah.
You are sacrificing 3.5 hours of productive, high-value thinking beyond the time you spent on the task itself.
So it's a double tax. You pay in time and you pay again in focus.
And then, as if that's not bad enough, you add in the planning fallacy.
This is Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel laureate.
The man himself. The planning fallacy is our innate, deeply human tendency to systematically undervalue how much effort a future task will take. We are eternal optimists about our own time and energy.
This is so true. It's like when a visa application looks easy because the trip is 6 weeks away.
Exactly. 6 weeks out, it's just a line item on your to-do list. Fill out visa form.
Yeah.
You think I'll knock that out on Sunday afternoon. It's just a form.
And then it's 3 days before the trip.
And it's a full-blown panic attack involving finding your birth certificate, getting biometric data taken, begging for invitation letters, and paying insane expediting fees.
I read about a sauce founder in the source material who perfectly illustrates this. He guessed he spent about 12 hours on travel admin over a 6-month period. He was confident. Yeah, maybe 2 hours a month, pops.
And what was the reality?
They did a full audit of his calendar, his browser history, his credit card statements. The actual number was 34 hours.
Nearly triple his estimate. And that's common. We forget the 15-minute increments, the time spent checking if a flight is delayed, the time spent reorganizing an entire itinerary on a Sunday night because one meeting moved by an hour. We forget the anxiety.
And we completely willfully ignore the money. The opportunity cost here is just wild. The sources mentioned a 12.1 ratio.
This is the economic argument that should end the debate, honestly, for any business owner. If you look at a median startup founder, their effective hourly value, when you factor in what they do during their best hours, like fundraising, strategy, product vision, is around 340 pounds.
Okay. So that's what their brain is worth to the company per hour when it's firing on all cylinders.
Right. Now, what's the market rate for a skilled professional executive assistant in the UK? It's about 28 pounds per hour.
So the math is stark. Every hour I spend booking a flight, my company is essentially burning over 300 pounds.
You are paying a CEO salary to do a job that costs 28 pounds an hour. It's horrifying financial management. You wouldn't pay a janitor 300 pounds an hour to sweep the floor, but you are effectively paying yourself that to book a hotel. And yet, the data shows 68% of early-stage founders still do it themselves.
So why? That's the billion-dollar question. If the math is that clear, if the brain drain is that obvious, why can't we let go?
Because we aren't rational economic machines. We are, at our core, psychological messes.
Okay, let's get into this. The psychology of delegation. Because I have to admit, I felt personally attacked by this section of the research. I was reading it and thinking, oh no, that's me. That's definitely me.
It's most of us, if we're being honest. The first psychological barrier the sources identify is the control premium.
The controlled premium.
Founders, entrepreneurs, high achievers, they are usually perfectionists. That's a big part of how they succeeded in the first place. They built a great product because they obsessed over every little detail.
They're the ones who kernel the fonts on the pitch deck. They check every line of code.
Exactly. And so they apply that same obsessive mindset to choosing a seat on a British Airways flight. It's a misplaced application of a valuable skill.
And this ties into a cognitive bias, right?
It does. It's called illusory superiority bias. A founder will say, I can't possibly delegate travel because I know what I like. Nobody can do it as well as I can.
The classic, nobody knows my preferences like I do.
But if you actually press them on that, and I love doing this, if you ask, okay, what are your incredibly unique, complex preferences that only you can possibly understand? What do they say?
A clean hotel, a central location, and, working wifey.
Exactly. That isn't a complex algorithm that requires a PhD to decipher. That is basic competence. Founders aren't actually better at booking travel. They're just more familiar with their own chaotic, mediocre process.
Ouch. They think they're optimizing, but they're usually just flailing with a high degree of confidence.
Perfectly put.
Okay, but what about barrier number 2? This is the one I hear constantly from people. Training time asymmetry. Or, as it's more commonly known, it takes longer to explain it than to just do it myself.
I hear this every single day. I could just book this flight in 10 minutes, but explaining exactly what I want to an assistant is going to take 30 minutes. It's a net loss.
And isn't that true, though? At least at the beginning?
It's absolutely true for the first time, and maybe even for the second time. If you view the task as a complete one-off, then yes, explaining it takes 45 minutes and doing it yourself takes 20. You lose 25 minutes on that one task. But that kind of thinking completely ignores the principle of amortization.
Okay, explain that for the non-finance people listening. Amortization.
It just means spreading the cost of an investment over time. That 45 minutes you spend explaining your preferences is an investment. It's a one-time setup fee.
So it pays dividends.
Massively. That investment pays for itself after the third trip. By the time you get to the 10th trip, you've saved 20+ hours. Founders who say it's faster to do it myself are suffering from what you could call sunk cost reversal.
I like that.
They're avoiding a small, one-time upfront investment, and in doing so, they are choosing to pay a much larger, permanent, ongoing tax instead. It's fundamentally irrational.
It's short-term laziness masquerading as long-term efficiency.
Precisely. It feels efficient in the moment, but it's a disaster strategically.
But hold on. I want to defend the founders for a second. Let's talk about trust. I think a lot of people try to delegate. They go to a big marketplace, they get burned, and then they give up entirely.
This is the trust deficit, and it is a massive, very real problem. And it's essentially a failure of the open marketplace model.
So you go to a platform like Upwork or Fiverr.
Exactly. You post a job, looking for a VA to help with travel. You get 40 applications within an hour.
And every single one of them has a 5-star rating.
Suspiciously uniform 5 stars, yes. And their bios are all filled with buzzwords. So how do you vet them? How do you pick the one good one out of the 40?
You can't. Or rather, the process of vetting them takes 5 hours. It's a job in itself.
You have to interview them, give them a test task, then you hire one, and maybe they just ghost you after a week. Or maybe they book a hotel for you in Berlin, Germany, when the conference is in Berlin, Connecticut. It happens.
So the founder rightly concludes, see, delegation doesn't work.
When the reality is, marketplace delegation for high-stakes, high-trust tasks doesn't work. That's the real conclusion. You wouldn't hire your company's CFO from a random job board, would you? Why are you hiring your external brain that way?
That's a great point. And the final psychological barrier.
The "it's fine" fallacy. This is the classic boiling frog scenario.
We're just so used to the heat, we don't notice it's killing us.
You've optimized your entire life around the pain for so long, you don't even see it as pain anymore. It's just the baseline. A founder who loses 5 hours a week to admin can't imagine what having those hours back would even look like.
Because they've never had them.
They've never had them. They are completely blind to the possibility of a better, less stressful way of operating. They think the constant low-grade stress of managing their own logistics is just the price of being a founder.
So, we have established the problem. We are wasting time, we're burning precious brain cells, and we are lying to ourselves about why we continue to do it. Let's pivot and talk about the solution that the research points to. This company, VA Connect.
VA Connect.
They seem to be structured to solve these exact psychological barriers. What makes their model different from that typical Upwork model we just discussed?
Well, to understand them, you have to look at their history a little bit. They didn't just appear overnight as a tech platform. They started way back in 2008 as a company called LimeTree Consulting.
Okay.
It was founded by an entrepreneur named Karen, who, from what the source material says, just loves systems and processes.
A systems thinker. My kind of person.
Exactly. She rebranded in 2014 to focus specifically on what they call managed virtual assistants. And that word managed is the absolute key to their entire model.
And they've been at it for a while. The scale is pretty significant.
Oh, yeah. Over 250,000 hours of work delivered, a core team of over 35 people. But the key distinction is that they are a managed agency, not an open job board.
So what's the functional difference between curation and search in this context?
Upwork is search. You post a job, you screen the candidates, you interview them, you cross your fingers, and you hope. You are essentially buying a hiring process, which is another task for you to manage.
Right. I'm still the one doing the work of hiring.
Exactly. The VA Connect model is curation. It's much more like working with a high-end headhunter. You give them your requirements, your needs, your work style, your company culture, and they do the work of matching you with a pre-vetted, pre-trained assistant from their pool.
So I don't have to interview 40 people with identical 5-star ratings.
No, you get 1, maybe 2 curated matches. And here is the accountability piece that really matters. If the fit is poor for any reason, they replace the assistant at no cost to you, usually within 48 hours.
That removes all the risk.
It does.
Yeah.
You are delegating to a service, an accountable entity, not just a random freelancer who could disappear tomorrow.
That seems huge for overcoming that trust deficit we talked about.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the engine under the hood here. Because VA Connect leverages South African talent. Why South Africa specifically?
This is where we get into the economics of geographic arbitrage. And it's a fascinating concept, but it's also where people can get, a little bit skeptical.
Okay, hold on. I want to pump the brakes here because you're throwing around terms like geographic arbitrage. But I think to a lot of people listening, that just sounds like a corporate euphemism for finding cheap labor.
It's a completely fair pushback, and it's important to address head on.
It's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Right? The immediate question is, if I'm paying someone in another country a fraction of a UK salary, how is that not exploitation? How do we justify that ethically?
You have to look at the economics through a local lens, not a London or New York lens. That's the only way it makes sense. Let's just look at the raw numbers provided in the briefing. The exchange rate between the British pound and the South African rand is roughly 23.5 to 1.
Okay, a huge difference.
Now, a competitive professional salary in a city like Cape Town is about 18,000 rand a month.
18,000 rand. So, doing the math, what is that in pounds?
That's approximately 765 pounds a month.
Wow. Okay, see, that number is jarring. 765 pounds a month for a full-time professional. To a UK ear, that sounds impossibly low. That's less than it costs to rent a desk in a WeWork in Shoreditch.
Correct. But this is where you have to apply the concept of purchasing power parity, or PPP. It's an economic term, but it basically just asks a simple question. What can you actually buy with this money in that specific city?
So it's not about the exchange rate, it's about the quality of life it affords.
Precisely. So what does 18,000 rand a month actually mean for the person earning it in Cape Town?
Break that down for us.
It means a lot. In Cape Town, 18,000 rand comfortably covers a decent apartment, all your groceries, transport, and still leaves you with disposable income. It offers a lifestyle that would be equivalent to earning about 2,800 pounds a month in London.
Okay, that context changes the entire picture.
It's considered a good job locally. It is a desirable professional salary. It is absolutely not a sweatshop wage.
So the client in the UK gets the cost saving. They're essentially paying for maybe 20 hours of UK-based help, but getting a full-time dedicated professional. And the assistant in South Africa gets a competitive professional standard of living.
Exactly. It's a true win-win arbitrage, not an exploitative one. And it gets even more compelling when you look at the quality of the talent pool.
Right, because cost is one thing, but quality is another.
South Africa produces about 75,000 university graduates every single year from top-tier universities like the University of Cape Town and Stellenbosch. These are world-class institutions with very high standards.
But the local economy isn't absorbing them.
Not even close. There is massive structural unemployment in the country, approaching 40% in some graduate demographics. So you have this incredible situation where there is first-rate talent, smart, degree-holding, ambitious English-speaking people who are trapped by local economic constraints.
So the supply of talent vastly outstrips the local demand.
By an order of magnitude, the briefing says VA Connect receives over 300 applications for every single position they post.
300 for one job.
300. So think about what that allows them to do. They aren't just hiring whoever is available. They can be incredibly selective. They can scream not just for basic competence, but for polish, for personality, for proactive thinking. They are skimming the absolute cream of a very deep talent crop.
And what about the practicalities, like the time zone? Because I've tried working with teams in the Philippines or India, and that asynchronous delay is a real killer for productivity. You ask a question at 2 p.m. your time, and you get an answer at 4 a.m. when you're asleep. It just breaks the flow of work.
That's a huge factor. South Africa is on GMT +2. It's a perfect overlap with the UK and European workdays. If you are in London, your assistant is online when you are. You can have a real-time conversation. There's no delay.
And culturally.
The cultural alignment is very strong. English is an official language, of course. And because of the historical ties, the legal systems, the business practices, even the sense of humor, it all translates very well.
Yeah. You know, humor is such an underrated component in a good working relationship. If you can't joke with your assistant, or if basic sarcasm doesn't translate, it makes for a very long, stiff, and unproductive day.
It really does. You need that human rapport to build trust, and that's much easier with cultural and temporal alignment.
Okay, so VA Connect has access to this amazing talent pool. But how do they ensure that talent actually knows what it's doing? Because being a smart university graduate is not the same thing as being a world-class executive assistant. Booking travel for a demanding CEO is a very specific skill set.
That is the absolute crucial question, and that is where their internal infrastructure comes in. They don't just hire these smart people and hope for the best. They have a program called VA Varsity.
VA Varsity. I like the branding.
It's basically a 6-week certification and training boot camp that every single new hire must go through before they ever speak to a client.
What are they learning in there?
Everything. UK and European business etiquette, deep dives into travel booking systems, mastering calendar management tools like a pro. They are essentially installing the executive assistant operating system into these already smart graduates.
So they hit the ground running on day one with a client.
And they solve the institutional knowledge problem, which is so critical for delegation.
Explain what you mean by that.
All of your specific preferences. Client A likes a window seat on the right side of the plane. Client B hates early morning flights. Client C needs gluten-free meals pre-ordered. All of that is documented and stored in a central CRM system.
Why does that matter so much?
Because if your dedicated assistant gets promoted or goes on holiday or leaves the company, usually you're completely screwed. You have to start from scratch and retrain the new person on all of your quirks.
The nightmare scenario with a freelancer. They leave, and you feel like you've lost your external brain.
Exactly. But with the VA Connect model, the replacement assistant inherits that entire knowledge base from the CRM on day one. You don't have to start from zero. The service continuity is built in.
That's the difference between hiring a person and hiring a system.
A system that is powered by people. And they focus heavily on keeping those people. They have a wellness program for their VAs called Atomic Energy.
Atomic Energy? What's that?
It sounds intense, but it's a program for the VAs that includes access to dietitians, exercise coaches, mental mobility coaches. They treat their assistants like corporate athletes whose performance matters. And another program called Vapiness.
Vapiness? That's a bit of a pun.
It is. It stands for the Two-Way Happiness Program. It's a structured system for managing the relationship between the client and the remote worker to ensure there's a strong connection and a good culture fit.
So it's about retention.
It's all about retention. Their core philosophy, according to the sources, is we create happy spaces. When our professionals love their work world, you, the client, get all the benefit of that.
It sounds a little bit fluffy, creating happy spaces, but retention is a hard economic metric. If my assistant stays with me for 3 years, I save dozens of hours in retraining. If they burn out after 6 months, I lose time. It's that simple.
Precisely. And they also offer different service tiers, which I think is a really smart part of their model.
It's not one size fits all.
No. They have the South African remote tier, which is in that 12 to 16 pounds per hour price range. That's best for execution-heavy tasks. Travel booking, research, email management, CRM updates.
The bulk of the admin work.
Exactly. But they also have a UK-based premium tier.
Which is obviously more expensive.
Right, 28 to 35 pounds an hour. But that's for when you absolutely need a physical presence in the UK, someone to handle sensitive legal document signing, or to manage highly complex scheduling with people in London face-to-face.
So you use the right tool for the right job. You don't need a London-based person charging London rates to book a simple flight from Heathrow to Berlin.
Exactly. The travel booking task has zero location dependence. You use the arbitrage for the 90% of tasks that are remote and save the premium service for the 10% that aren't.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate again, because everyone listening to this, especially the tech-savvy founders, is thinking it. It is 2026. I have AI agents on my desktop. I have ChatGPT 5. Why on earth would I hire a human being, manage a relationship, and pay a monthly fee when I could just type into a prompt, book me a flight to Berlin?
It's the seductive promise of pure automation, isn't it? Just let the bot do it. And for simple, repetitive tasks, AI is amazing. But where it falls apart, especially in the context of an executive's life, is with a concept called judgment under uncertainty.
Okay, give me a concrete example. Where does the bot break down?
Okay, picture the scenario. You're at a major conference in Edinburgh. It officially ends at 5:80 p.m. on a Friday. You have a critical board meeting back in London on Monday morning at 9 a.m.
Okay, standard situation.
You tell your AI, get me home from Edinburgh after 5 p.m. Friday. The AI looks at that request as a pure logic puzzle. What is the most efficient way to get from point A to point B? It will find and book you the 6:00 p.m. flight because it's efficient. It gets you home the fastest.
Which makes sense. I want to go home.
Does it, though? Think about the context. You've been on your feet for 3 days, you're completely exhausted. And maybe the single most valuable part of that entire conference is the informal drinks happening at 5:30 p.m., where you might have a chance encounter with your next lead investor.
The AI has no concept of that.
None. A human assistant who knows you, who knows your energy levels, who knows your business goals, might look at that situation and say, you know what? I'm booking you out on the first flight Saturday morning, stay for the drinks, have a nice dinner, sleep in a proper bed, don't rush home exhausted.
So the AI maximizes computational efficiency. The human maximizes life and business effectiveness.
Exactly. And AI can't weigh the potential networking value at Friday drinks versus the need to review a 60-slide deck on Sunday. That requires deep human context and judgment.
And of course, there are the edge cases, the chaos scenarios.
Right. AI fails spectacularly when the plan breaks. When your flight is canceled 2 hours before departure due to a strike.
Or the hotel is overbooked and you're standing in the lobby at midnight with no room.
A human is a force multiplier in a crisis. While you are in your final important meeting, your assistant is on the phone with the airline customer service, advocating for you, finding you a seat on another carrier. An AI can't argue with a customer service agent. It can't use charm. It can't escalate to a manager. It can't pull strings.
That advocacy piece is huge. It's not just about booking. It's about managing the entire travel experience. And it extends to other things, too, like communication. The sources mention email triage.
Right. An AI can summarize your emails, but can it filter the 120 messages you get a day and correctly identify the 15 that actually need your personal attention and then confidently handle or delegate the other 105?
It requires understanding subtext and politics.
Can it understand the political nuance within your team? Can it tell from the tone of an email that this is a potential crisis, even if the words themselves are polite? That's the judgment layer AI just isn't ready for yet. Or turning your rambling voice notes into a coherent LinkedIn draft. It's about nuance.
Not yet, anyway. So let's say I'm sold. I'm convinced. I want to reclaim my 4.7 hours a week. I want to stop burning my best brain cycles on Expedia. How does this actually work in practice? What do the first 30 days look like with a service like VA Connect?
They use what they call a strategy-first approach. It's not just, here's a person, good luck, have fun. It's a structured onboarding.
So what's step one?
It starts with a Zoom meeting with their strategy team to really discuss your needs, your pain points, your communication style, and your goals. Then, based on that deep dive, they match you with an assistant based not just on skills, but also on personality and culture fit. You have a meet and greet and you get started.
But the onboarding is where this relationship usually fails. You hire someone, you're too busy to talk to them for 3 days, and then you get mad when they haven't done anything.
Yes, and they have a process to prevent that. The sources outline a specific 4-week sequence for success. Week 1 is all about preference documentation.
That 45-minute upfront investment we talked about earlier.
You sit down for one focused session and you document everything. Aisle versus window, your frequent flyer numbers, your meal requirements, your meeting buffers. Don't book me for anything before 9 a.m. I hate connecting through the specific airport. You build your personal user manual.
Okay, so that's week 1. Week 2.
Week 2 is the shadow phase. This is really clever. The assistant does all the research for a trip, finds the flights, vets the hotels, but you are the one who actually executes the booking.
So you can see their work before it's final.
You see their work and you can recalibrate their judgment. Oh, you picked this hotel, which is great, but I actually prefer this other chain because I have loyalty points there. This is where you align the judgment layer.
And weeks 3 and 4.
Graduated delegation. The assistant does the booking, but you have to approve it before they purchase. It's like taking the training wheels off the bike, but you're still holding onto the seat.
It builds trust incrementally.
Exactly. And the result of this structured process is that within 6 months, their top-performing clients are successfully delegating 15 to 20 hours of work every single week.
That is a massive amount of time. That's basically getting half of a work week back to focus on what matters.
Yeah.
But surely it doesn't work for absolutely everyone. Who is this not for?
No, there are definitely contrarian cases. The sources are clear on this. If you have ultra-niche, highly specialized needs like you only fly on certain private or boutique airlines, you might need a specialized high-end concierge service, not a generalist VA.
And if you have what the sources call pathological control.
Yes. The founder who needs therapy, not an assistant.
Right. If you literally cannot sleep at night unless you were the one who physically pressed the book now button yourself.
Exactly. If you are fundamentally incapable of letting go, no system in the world will work for you. And to be fair, if you travel less than, say, 4 times a year, the ROI might not really be there. The friction tax you're paying is low enough that you can probably just absorb it.
And it's worth noting, as we wrap up, that the scope of these services from VA Connect isn't just for travel, is it?
No, and that's a big part of their overall value proposition. They position themselves as a partner in building your 1% of the 1% support team.
So what other roles do they fill?
They have marketing assistants who can handle social media strategy and content creation. They have sales assistants for lead generation and CRM management. They have access to that amazing South African software engineering talent, even project managers to help coordinate distributed teams.
So you can start with travel and email, and then build out a whole remote operations layer for your company over time.
That's the idea. Their tagline is something like, small enough to care, big enough to guarantee quality.
So let's bring this all home. We've talked about the pain of the friction tax, the psychology that keeps us trapped, the smart economics of the solution, and the practical steps to make it work. What does this all mean for the person listening right now?
I think it comes down to a meta-optimization. Founders and executives, they obsess over metrics. They obsess over CAC customer acquisition cost. They obsess over their monthly burn rate. They will look at their AWS bill with a magnifying glass to save $100, but they completely ignore their own personal capacity.
You are your company's most expensive and most critical bottleneck.
You are. Every single hour you spend on low-value logistics is an hour stolen directly from high-value strategy. Just imagine 2 founders, Alpha and Beta, running competing companies. Founder Alpha books all their own flights. Over a year, that's 244 hours of their best time gone.
That's 6 full weeks of work.
Founder Beta uses a service like VA Connect. She maybe spends 26 hours a year on coordination and communication with her assistant. Who wins in the long run?
Beta wins?
Beta wins. Not because she's necessarily smarter or works harder, but because she allocates her cognition efficiently. She is focusing her brain on the product, the team, and the vision. Founder Alpha is focusing on seat maps and hotel reviews.
It's not just a convenience. It's a profound strategic advantage.
It absolutely is.
I think that is a perfect place to leave it. The final provocative thought for all of you listening today is this. The question isn't whether you can afford an assistant. It's whether you can afford to keep optimizing every single thing in your business, except for one finite resource that actually determines its success, your own brain.
Well said.
If you are feeling that friction tax, it might be worth checking out VA Connect and their strategy-first approach. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.